Francesca Albanese shuts down AP reporter at a UN press conference. Take a listen. But before I play the video, just to remind you, subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed.
Thank you. Robin Millard from AFP. I don't know if you've had the chance to see what Israel has to say about your report. They said, and I'm quoting here, that it's motivated by an obsessive, hate-driven agenda to delegitimize the state of Israel. And they say that your report is, again I'm quoting, is legally groundless, defamatory, and a flagrant abuse of office. What is your response to what they have to say? Thank you.
I have no comment.
Yes.
I just want to return to the
Just one sentence, one line. I have no comment because what the Zionists are saying about me doesn't really matter and it doesn't count. What counts is what they are doing in Gaza with all the genocide.
Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And after the way you described the organization, I want to ask, what do you see a need for an urgent need case in front of ICJ or ICC over recent killings of aid seekers near the mechanism? Thank you.
I'm really reassured by the fact that this company has been, this entity has been deregistered. I hope this is the right term because I saw it in between the interactive dialogue and the press conference, but so I see that it doesn't have a necessarily a protected status in Switzerland, in Geneva anymore, and this is reassuring. However, there is a need, again, there is a need for accountability, no question about that, but I think that we need to get out of the chronicling approach and mentality. Of course, each incident requires analysis and investigation, but we need to look at the ensemble, step away from the detail. Everything is happening in the context of a destructive, intentionally destructive assault that Israel has launched against the Palestinians in Gaza, which is also echoed and mirrored by the violence that has escalated and intensified against the Palestinians in the West Bank. Really, there is little capacity to understand that the two pieces of these fragments are together. The Palestinian territory that Israel has occupied since 1967 is one. It should be treated as a territorial unity. And so Israel is unleashing violence against the Palestinians with the same animus, with the same spirit, moving them out, and with all the means possible, clearly. And I do believe that it's necessary to see that this is not the first genocide that consists of several other crimes. And it's in the interrelation and interplay of all these conducts and of all these crimes that one can also see how abandoned the Palestinians feel to this criminal design and to their destiny in their situation.
Yes, thank you. I have two questions, if possible. So the first one will be about the fact that the US administration, it seems that they are trying to have you out from your mandate. Some US medias say that the Trump administration sent an official letter to the Secretary General in order to have you out. Do you have any comment on that? And is it true? Because for now we have this only through media. And my second question is regarding the creation of a special tribunal for Israel. Is it something that you will support if it will be pushed by different countries? Because, for example, when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, the Western countries are the first that want the creation of a special tribunal. Do you see a kind of volunteers from these same countries when it comes to Israel, and do you think that it can happen one day?
I serve with a lot of pain and sacrifice this mandate upon request of the Human Rights Council. Not just what happened in the last 3 months, the fact that the Council embraced, without challenging it, the decision of the finding of the coordinating committee that have not acted in violations of the Code of Conduct, was reassuring, because the only thing I wanted to do 3 months ago, after engaging so much of my time and sacrificing so much of my own life to serve this mandate with honesty and integrity, I really wanted to present this report, because I knew that, I really believe that while yeah, member states are aware, and people are aware of the violations. It's difficult to see the system, and many are genuinely surprised of this picture, what I shared. And what reassures me is that what I've seen today in that room at the Human Rights Council is something I've never seen. Forget the applauses, I mean, but I've never seen such a almost wall-to-wall support and endorsement for my mandate before. So yeah, I accept that there might be some divergent views, and we can live with the fact that we agree to disagree. I'm a UN Special Rapporteur, and I should be respected as such. If any member state has issue with it, they can talk to their colleagues in the Human Rights Council. And the creation of a special tribunal. Look, I do believe that justice is absolutely necessary. I've often said that while we have international courts, we have the International Criminal Court, we have the International Court of Justice, we also have universal jurisdictions over the crime of genocide. And I do imagine the Palestine trials. I mean, people sometimes ask me, do you imagine the Nuremberg trials for Palestine? Yes. I imagine the Palestine trials, which will be the full realization of justice across the border, because crimes are across the border. Human rights violations clearly show that there are responsibilities across the border, and therefore I want to see lawyers and practitioners, barristers, and invested in supporting civil society and work with judges and prosecutors to deliver some justice. I'm not given thoughts yet, consideration myself to the idea of a special tribunal, while I do think that the question of Palestine is so big, is so overwhelming, the injustice that the Palestinians have experienced, which doesn't take anything away from the injustices that the Jewish people have endured and suffered for centuries, which is also what triggered somewhat and entered into Palestine. But never one injustice has justified another injustice. So now it's the time to look at what for 77 years, actually for 100 years, the Palestinians have endured, and probably one ad hoc mechanism would make sense. However, I also know that accountability per se, retributive justice, and even political solutions that take into account and realize the rights and freedoms of all, because this is the only solution that I see, the only political solution that I see as necessary and viable. Then it will be up to the Palestinians and the Israelis to decide in what form of states, 33 years later, the beginning of the peace process, they want to live in, one state, two states, three states. It's up to them to decide. However, I also think that the word that particularly my part of the world struggles with, and it's very necessary both for the Palestinians and the Israeli, is healing. There is a huge sense of trauma, and probably we can't even reckon the depth and of it right now, as the Palestinians in Gaza will have to survive, will have to be helped recover from what they have suffered, and they will need all our humanity, all the humanity that we have been prevented from showing them. But also the Israelis will need healing, because when they will realize what they have done in the name of an ideology that has turned into a political doctrine and that has sent its youngest citizens into carrying out genocide.
Yeah, I think there are two reasons primarily why United States they are going to be not letting her inside of the country. Two reasons and one consequence. For one consequence and for two reasons. Number one reason is because Francesca Albanese, she is presenting to the world images, photos, and information about the brutality of the Israeli forces, the genocide they're committing inside of Gaza. She's sharing those footages, those images, those videos, those information in such a way, she's doing such a great job that people, leaders, ambassadors who are looking at those images and reading those information, reading her writings, what she's mentioning in her articles, are convinced that this cannot go unpunished for Israel, because this is too much. They are now understanding the whole situation to the depth of it. And number two reason is because she is now talking about, or the journalist or the reporter asked her about special tribunal. After sharing those information that nobody could the way she did with other leaders, she can easily pursue and convince these people, the world leaders, to set up a special tribunal. Whether Israel goes to trial, Netanyahu, Smotrich, or Ben Gvir, they go to trial or not, doesn't really matter. What really matters is to have a tribunal system where Israel will be held accountable and be named and shamed. This is something Netanyahu would never want. This is something Donald Trump, United States, would never want. But because of Francesca Albanese, her professionalism, the way she's sharing information, the way she's bringing information right from Gaza, it is convincing to these leaders, especially to people like, or President like Lula da Silva in Brazil, or maybe for Putin, or for even Xi Jinping, and all of these leaders, even Middle Eastern leaders. They are very, very convinced from her work that Israel must be held accountable and they must face a special tribunal. Even though what Francesca Albanese said is that I am not aware of that kind of tribunal, but I think the talk is already going on. She might be brushing it off for the time being about the special tribunal, but I'm pretty sure behind closed doors she is working to have that kind of tribunal, simply because she just mentioned that what Israel is doing cannot be unpunished, and this genocide must not be forgotten, and the Palestinians must be healed, and Israelis must be healed by thinking about their action, their genocide in Gaza. The other thing is the consequence. The consequence of a report of her presence at the UN could be Israel getting completely isolated, even though they are already isolated from UN, but it could come a point where Israel will have less influence, less power, less say at the UN in the future. And thanks to, again, people working, special rapporteur like Francesca Albanese, bringing all of the evidences, the proof the world needs to see in order to make that kind of decision and eventually minimize Israel's impact, influence at the UN, and really mute them forever after what they have done inside of Gaza. But Francesca Albanese is doing a great job. Now she's being sanctioned from United States. We will find out what happens next, but I'm sure about one thing, and that is she's not going to stop.